Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating new academic paper. It offers a framework for analyzing the political movement its authors call Trump 2.0, and it suggests we should look at it not as a fixed thing, but as a process that unfolds over time. You know, way back in 1935, the novelist Sinclair Lewis really captured this deep-seated American belief with a simple idea, that a fascist-style dictatorship just couldn't happen here. It was a comforting thought, almost a pillar of the national identity. And that, right there, raises the crucial question this paper is grappling with. If it were happening, what would the warning signs even look like? How could we analyze them as they're emerging, instead of only connecting the dots years after the fact? Well, according to the authors we're examining, this is not some new, panicked question that just popped up. It's actually part of a long and often forgotten historical conversation in America about this very threat. I mean, the paper points to the journalist Dorothy Thompson, who warned all the way back in the 1930s that an American version of fascism wouldn't show up in some obvious foreign uniform. No, it would be cloaked in familiar, patriotic language, making it so much harder to recognize for what it is. So the paper grounds its whole analysis in this history. It shows how thinkers for decades have been trying to imagine what a uniquely American form of authoritarianism might look like, whether in novels or in political analysis during the Red Scare. Okay, so this brings us to the absolute core argument of the paper. The authors are suggesting that instead of getting stuck arguing about a label, is it fascist or is it not fascist, it's way more useful to analyze a movement as being on a trajectory. And they have a term for this, protofascism. The key idea here is that it's all about the process. The focus isn't on the final destination, but on the series of escalating steps that move a political project further and further away from democratic norms. And to make this a concrete, practical analysis, their framework identifies a few key areas or dimensions that we can watch to see how things are changing over time. So let's take a look at how they suggest we track this. Now, this visual from the paper is really interesting because it shows how they conceptualize this. They don't see fascism as some standalone ideology. Instead, they see it as this dangerous cocktail, a mix of authoritarianism, populism, and nationalism, all supercharged by extreme prejudice against a designated enemy. And this table perfectly illustrates that whole idea of a trajectory. Just look at the row for enemy construction. You can see how it escalates from simply calling opponents corrupt to framing them as an existential threat to the nation. And look at loyalty dynamics. It shifts from a normal loyalty to institutions and the law to something very different, a demand for absolute personal loyalty to the leader. So let's really zero in on that loyalty dimension, because the paper argues this specific shift from institutional loyalty to personal fealty is the absolute linchpin of the entire proto-fascist process. The paper draws a very, very sharp line here. On one side, you've got institutional loyalty. That's what a democracy is supposed to run on, right? It's loyalty to the office, to the law, to the Constitution. But what they call fealty, that's something else entirely. It's an unquestioning personal obedience to a leader, where dissent isn't just a disagreement, it's treated as betrayal. And here's the crucial part. The paper argues this transformation is no accident. It's not just a byproduct of a leader's charisma. No, it's an active, engineered process that's deliberately built through a system of rewards and punishments. So how is it built? Well, the authors identify 4 key tactics they say are used to engineer this fealty, all based on their analysis of the hypothetical Trump 2.0 project they outline in the paper. For instance, they highlight what they call administrative purges. This is where civil servants get replaced not based on their expertise, but on their demonstrated personal loyalty to the leader. The paper even cites reports of job seekers being asked about their moment of MAGA revelation. Another key example they give is the celebration of what they call extra state groups. The paper points to things like pardoning January 6 participants and recasting them as patriots. They argue this sends a powerful signal that loyalty, even when it involves violence, will be rewarded. And a quote they use from former National Security Advisor John Bolton really puts a fine point on it. He says, "Presidents expect loyalty. Trump demands fealty." That one sentence really captures the fundamental shift they're talking about. So, why does all of this matter? What's the point? The authors are very clear that their framework is not a crystal ball.
It is not meant to be a prophecy or a prediction of some inevitable outcome.
Instead, what they're offering is an analytical tool. You can think of it as a kind of early warning system. It's designed to help all of us, citizens, scholars, recognize the signs of this proto-fascist trajectory as it's unfolding, in real time, not just in the history books. And that really leaves us with the ultimate takeaway. This paper provides a lens for analysis, a way to look at the world, but it doesn't give us the answers. The task of observing, of analyzing, and of judging when a critical line might be getting crossed, well, the paper argues that falls to all of us.